The views and opinions expressed by the participants on this show are not necessarily those of Stewart Information Services Corporation, Stewart Title, or Stewart Insurance. Before you make any investment, you should seek the advice of your investment advisor or attorney.
Whether you're a real estate broker, realtor, homeowner, buyer, or seller, everything matters when it comes to real estate. This is Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Stewart Title's Bill Napick and guests open the door to what really matters in owning, buying, and selling real estate. And now, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title, brought to you by Stewart Insurance. Here to inform, entertain, and inspire, Bill Napick.
Welcome to the show, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. I am your host, Bill Napick. Thank you for joining us today. Another tremendous show is ahead. In fact, we have some awesome guests on this special show of Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. We're going to talk to Constable Ted Heap with Precinct 5, which is a very large geographic area in Houston and Harris County. He's going to talk about realtor safety, so much more, things for homeowners to know. In addition, we're going to talk property management with a property management expert and even talk to a real estate professional that is in one of the places that I think is a hidden gem in Houston, and much more on this show on Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title, and it begins right now. And now we are going to talk to Constable Ted Heap right here. He oversees Precinct 5 here in Houston, Texas, and when we think about real estate expanding everywhere in Houston, certainly in the western area, Meyerland. Constable, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate you having me here.
Let's give people just a quick idea, because I didn't know it when I first met you. Give us a broad idea of Precinct 5. What does that cover?
Precinct 5 covers generally from, let's just say, 610 Loop and all the way out 290. Anything on the south side of 290 is Precinct 5, all the way out to the county line. So all the way out to Waller, then back south through Katy to 59, then up the West Park Toll Road and 59, all the way to Meyerland to Maplewood. So it's like a big pie section on the west side of town. About 1.2 million people, if you go by last census that we had, and probably about 300 square miles. Probably the most populous precinct in the country, and definitely in Harris County. Precinct 4 on the other side of 290 is the largest road miles wise. They wrap from 290 all the way around to Intercontinental Airport.
That is incredible. Let's tell people from a leadership standpoint, you are leading a lot of people, a lot of law enforcement people. Also, you're relating to the community in the idea of real estate, as real estate professionals are helping people all the time. A lot of times lately, they are helping people in the western suburbs, Katy, Cypress, all over the place. Things are expanding in a major way. Tell people some of the things that you see as leading law enforcement every day that you see out here in these suburbs, what's happening from the desirability and anything else you want to bring up.
Well, the west side of town in Precinct 5 here, as you had stated, is booming. First of all, we have the energy corridor, so you have all of the energy corridor area, a lot of the big oil companies and stuff out here, so they're bringing in people constantly. And so they're new to the area. But people generally are looking at being able to find a place that is a neighborhood, an area, a part of town that is low with crime, is safe, is good school districts, has access and good access to the freeway systems to be able to get downtown or wherever they need to go. And everything I just described kind of sums up the west side of Harris County. So I think that's probably what makes it very appealing. There's a lot of great neighborhoods. You go in towards Meyerland and Maplewood and Westbury, and those are very established and tremendous places to live. And then, of course, all the way up and down Memorial, and it's just there's many great neighborhoods on the west side of town.
There really is. In fact, as you mentioned, the west side and getting around places, not to mention the addition of 99. Living out in the west, as I do now and you do as well, not too far from 99, that enables you to get north to the Woodlands, anywhere you want to go. In addition, you jump on 10 if you, like you said, you want to go downtown. Yeah, it's very desirable out here, no question about it.
No, it is. My in-laws live in the Woodlands, and to be able to jump on 99 and go straight, whereas you were used to going through Tomball and cutting through and everything, makes a tremendous amount of difference. So people definitely look at that when they move out to an area.
A pleasant drive it is, no doubt about it. Tell us about some of the things that people can do, whether they've lived in Precinct 5 or anywhere else, in fact, in the United States, just as homeowners. People are concerned about safety these days a lot more. And I know myself, I think I bought 3 extra cameras for security cameras just because they were on sale and because I thought I needed 3 extra security cameras. So people are taking extra security precautions. In fact, I did a show not too long ago at a gun range with one of the owners there. Gun ranges, gun stores are going crazy. They can't keep ammo in stock. Weapons are hard to buy, but a lot of people are buying more weapons. They're beefing up their house for protection, and they're thinking about safety a lot more. What would you, maybe even in a cautionary note, because I'm afraid that there's people that have guns out there now that never fired a gun before. So it's kind of crazy, but what would you tell people just from a protection standpoint? What should we do to think about our homes being safe?
Well, we are charged with protecting the public. The reality, though, is that there's a certain amount of obligation that you have to be able to take upon yourself and protect yourself. And what I mean by that is that if you do own a gun, the best thing that you can do is be efficient with that weapon. You need to know it. You need to practice with it, things of this nature. As far as your home goes, there's a lot that you can do. You had mentioned cameras. Cameras are amazing. Amazing as far as how it assists us to do follow-ups. The first thing we do when we have property crimes, burglary of motor vehicles, burglary of residence, we're going to look for the people around that had Ring doorbells or cameras mounted. And it's amazing what we can do to be able to solve a crime when we can get a license plate, when we can get a description of somebody, a suspect, and take it from somebody's camera. So, yes, your alarm system is vital. I would definitely have an alarm system. I would go ahead and employ, because you can do it for virtually nothing now, because the technology has increased so much as far as having camera systems. So from a law enforcement perspective, those things are wonderful for us. They really shorten our response time as far as your alarm system. One word, if you're in an area that is exclusively patrolled by a particular department, then I would look into see if you could register that department with your alarm company first. The alarm company may tell you, no, you have to register yourself and we'll call you. My suggestion would be, if you're in an area where Precinct 5 patrols, then go in there and tell them that, no, the first point of contact is Precinct 5. Because when they call you and you're in San Antonio and you say, no, I'm not there, it must be a break-in, go ahead and call the police, you just wasted 4 minutes. Go ahead and have them call us first and you second. We're going to be there with an emergency response time of less than 3 minutes. Then we're going to be en route, and most of the time we'll be there before you're there. And that's the type of response that we need to do to stop, people burglarizing houses and vehicles. So you may want to take that into consideration.
I also want to tell people your website. That is Constable PCT for Tom 5, the number 5.com. That's Constable PCT, the number 5.com. As far as trends you're seeing, when we think about crime, there are some places safer than others, but also crime is everywhere anyway. Do you see any trends or certain crimes that are taking place now that maybe we didn't see last year at this time or 2 years ago? What should we be aware of as homeowners and just citizens?
Sure. Well, the situation that we're all facing with COVID-19 has been challenging, and it has altered the types of crimes and the amount of crimes that we're seeing in different categories. The burglaries and the crimes against property as far as residents is actually decreased. And now it's about steady, but because people were at home so much. Now what we've seen an increase of course, is domestic violence, violence against animals. Calling into the suicide hotline was up 800%. Now, I'm not talking about suicides. I'm talking about calls in for help and guidance through the hotline. So you look at things, homicide rate has skyrocketed. A lot of that is because people are at home. People are stir crazy. People are feeling trapped, and people are having to deal with something they've never had to deal with before. So this is increase in crimes that we're having to deal with, out on the streets.
That's alarming.
It is alarming.
And that's just in the last few months, it sounds like.
And I'd say the last 4 months, correct,
so
yes.
When it started. Unbelievable.
Yes.
You mentioned animals briefly. There are things set up, initiatives set up, not just to help people and help us protect our stuff and our lives, but animals are important too, especially in the real estate community. It's funny that when we talk to realtors, almost all of us have some kind of pet, 1 or 2 dogs, cats, and all that. But it's good to know if someone wants to reach out to help animals in terms of cruelty, if they see an incident, you're there to help as well, you and combining with HPD and all the law enforcement. Let's tell people what they can do there if something happens, God forbid.
Sure. We are part of the Harris County Animal Cruelty Task Force. It was begun about 2 years ago. And what the whole thrust of this was to give a common reporting place, number and avenue for people to report regardless of where they live. So if you can remember one number, and that is 832-927-PAWS. That's 927-PAWS. And also there's a website, which is www.927paws.org. If you go there and fill out a complaint, it will be routed to the proper agency. And this is for animal abuse, neglect, abandonment, cruelty. If you get that information to us, and it's amazing cooperative between nonprofits and different law enforcement agencies, the Harris County District Attorney's Office, all to try to make a difference as far as in the lives of animals.
And you mentioned the suicide hotline. Is that also a place people can reach out that is shared with all the law enforcement agencies around?
Well, the suicide hotline is actually run independently. So when the law enforcement is brought in dealing with the suicide hotline is when they have an immediate threat or they need somebody on the scene immediately. But those are trained professionals that are able to help people with their counseling and to be able to give them the proper guidance. So it's more directed towards, shall we say, the level one. If they get somebody who is in dire need of immediate intervention, then they would be calling the local law enforcement to be able to respond to see if we could help that person.
Fascinating what's going on in these times. Also, you, any law enforcement person that's listening, certainly we thank you for your service, encourage you all the way. This is an extra tough time, I think, for all of us in whatever profession, but certainly law enforcement has. You all have some extra challenges and are doing incredible work. I thank you. And also all those that are listening. Before we close the segment, what are some of the other things that you would like people to know, Precinct 5 or wherever they may be?
I would say take the opportunity to make contact with your local law enforcement agency. Community-oriented policing is very important now, which means that there should be a relationship between you and your law enforcement agency and the people, and then of course that is what we're there for, is to be able to serve the public. So go onto the website. You mentioned the website earlier, and go onto the website and see the different programs that we offer. Everything from a hero read for children up to a senior safety and citizens police academies. All of these things are offered by Precinct 5 and by many other agencies free of charge. So it's a great thing to involve yourself with the law enforcement agency so that there's a relationship between you and them.
And that's ConstablePCT5.com. Also, you mentioned the community. That's how I met you first a few years ago, reaching out to the community that you live in and that I live in. And it seems like you and the officers do that by knowing the community. You actually have an idea what's going on in your neighborhood, and some of the other officers I've talked to since I've been out there in the Katy area for 3 years, they seem to also care about the people and get to know them. Thus, you're making that inroad with the community. That's very reassuring.
Well, if we find out what the problems are, what the concerns are in a community after the fact, then we're useless. We need to hear from the people as they start to become concerned with these things. So the only way we can do that is have that line of communication. And one way we do that is by making these civic meetings. When we can get there and get a group of 40 or 50 people who are saying, hey, we've seen an increase of this, or we're concerned about this, or can you share with us about that, then it really helps us to get a grasp on what the trends are, because crime trends just like everything else. And our key is to try to be ahead of those trends rather than be responding to them.
One quick word. Realtors are out there now as things are loosening up, maybe with a virus. Who knows? They go back and forth. But realtors are now having more open houses. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing more of that around our area and all around Houston and even the United States. Open houses are up. What would you advise if your daughter was a realtor and she said, Dad, what should I do? I'm going to have an open house. How do I make sure I'm safe? What tips would you give her?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think that I would be looking at numbers. Very few crimes occur when there's more than one person These types of crimes, as far as assaults and even burglaries or robberies of a person, when it's just one person. I would not have any realtor, doing an open house alone. I would have a second person there. Also, it's a very good idea to let the neighbors know that obviously there'll be an open house there. I know it's marked and it'll be advertised, but to let them know. You'd be amazed how much information and how much of a benefit neighbors can be. They'll come by. Of course, they want to see what's going on in the house, so they're going to stop by any. They're always
I'm going to be stopping
by
when I see the sign.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So I would definitely try to coordinate with your agency and the realtor group and see if you can have somebody at least check by. Always have lines of communication, whether or not it means checking in every 30 minutes or an hour. And I know that can be difficult, especially when you're conveying information to a potential buyer. But have something set up to where if something is wrong there. And situational awareness. Keep your eyes open.
Gigantic.
Yeah,
yes.
If things don't look right, consider them not right. And whenever in doubt, go ahead and give an officer a call. Let the officer come by. Let him swing by. Just seeing that patrol car on the street sometimes makes all the difference in the world.
Indeed it does. We're talking with Constable Ted Heap right here in Houston, Texas, Precinct 5. The website is constablepct5.com. Constable Ted Heap, thank you for your service. Thanks for being on the show. And anyone in law enforcement in any capacity, we thank you 1,000-fold.
Bill, thank you very much.
And now it's time to talk to Amber Stewart. She is with Keller Williams Premier in Katy, Texas. Amber, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on today.
Well, first of all, Amber, let's tell people a little bit about Keller Williams Premier.
Well, I love Keller Williams Premier. We have a great culture there. We have a little over 300 agents, and I love that because I have a great community I can go to bounce ideas off of, to give my listing information to, so that if they have a buyer, they can bring me information. And we just have a great team of people there that I love working with.
You also have a very nice last name, Stewart title. We love to meet people that have the last name Stewart. You are Amber Stewart. I can't forget that. I want to talk a bit about marketing, and one of the areas of Houston that I live in, and I think it's tremendous, and I think sometimes people forget about it. As far as marketing goes, I have seen in the mailbox, you send out something called the Green Trails Gazette. I'm looking at it right now. It comes into my mailbox, and you do something. I don't know that all realtors do this, but you tell people what's going on in a particular area. In this case, It's Green Trails. It's a market snapshot. Let's tell people about your Green Trails Gazette.
Well, I started doing the Gazette last year, and I just really wanted to contact some of my neighbors because I also live in Green Trails, and I love Green Trails. It's a great area, and I just thought, I want to give out some information about our neighborhood and kind of have let our neighbors have the opportunity to watch what our neighborhood is doing from a real estate glance as well. A lot of the economic status of our country is based on real estate. That's a big part of it. So I wanted them to have some graphs and information about what's happening in our particular neighborhood, whether there is a house, how many houses are active, how many sold in the last year, how many are currently pending. All of that tells a really great story. And so I just wanted to provide that for my neighbors.
It really does. And as it is a snapshot of that given time that we receive it, it helps people that are thinking about buying or selling. In addition, just for people that are all maybe happy, they get to see what's going on in their neighborhood, so they always have some kind of a grasp of their own home status.
That's right.
How green is Green Trails, by the way? Let's tell people it is pretty green. It's called Green Trails, I guess, because there's a lot of trees. I live in Green Trails. Let's tell people about it that might not be familiar in the Houston area, or people that might be listening, I don't know, out of state or somewhere else.
Sure. So I love Green Trails. When we first moved to Houston, it was in 2009. And we moved away for a short time to North Dakota, and we lived there for 3 years. And while we were in North Dakota, we thought, where are all the trees? North Dakota is a plain, and it snows a lot, as you can imagine. Because they're such plains, the winds just whip right through there. And when we were living there, we realized we miss trees. And so that was something we really looked for when we were moving back to the Houston area. And when we came into the Green Trails neighborhood, I thought, this is it. It's beautiful. It's green. The canopy of trees just really draws you in, and it makes you feel like you are in this little security blanket of a neighborhood. And we just love it. And we've loved getting to know our neighbors, and we've loved all of the green and Green Trails. We use the trails quite regularly, actually. And we love that you can take jogs and walks back there. And in the spring, right by our little waterway and on the trails, you can see all the little wildflowers popping up. It's one of our favorite things to do as a family, is to walk and point out all the wildflowers in our neighborhood.
In addition to the wildflowers, there are also plenty of turtles that I like to observe. And some of them are gigantic. It's amazing.
We love going. We call it the Turtle Bridge. We love going to the Turtle Bridge, and my son and daughters point out the turtles, and that's a great fun time for us.
In addition, the other nice thing about Green Trails, I will tell you, if you're in the Houston area or if you visit the Houston area, simply I-10 west of the city, one of the best approaches to Green Trails is take Greenhouse Road. You'll enter Green Trails, you'll enjoy the entry, and then you're in the place that Amber and I are talking about right now. It's close to I-10, thus it's close to so many things.
Yeah, my husband loved it because living in Houston before, we knew how important it was to not have a long commute, and he was going to work right in the energy corridor. So we wanted to make sure that he did not have too long of a commute. And I mean, he works on Eldridge and I-10, and it takes him 15 minutes to get there. And he even thought at some point he might start riding his bike there because he's figured out a path of trails all the way to the energy corridor. So it's super convenient, great area of town, and we've loved it. It's been super close. We do date nights in Houston, and it's not too far for us. So we've loved living in Green Trails.
Let's tell people some of the things. If they're interested in buying or selling in Green Trails, give us a market snapshot of what, let's say, as a seller, we could expect if we were to put our home on the market here in Green Trails.
Oh, sure. I'd love to share. So we have about 14 active listings in Green Trails right now. The price per square foot, it's interesting. Right now, the price per square foot is about $128 as an average. And you can expect, if you put your house on the market and you price it right, that it will sell in about 40 days on the market. Right now, there's about 8 pending properties, and they are all priced at an average price range of $136 a square foot, and those ones were on the market for about 36 days. So since last year, the price per square foot has gone down a little. However, we're seeing that the real estate market is still really moving in Green Trails. We had a total of 57 houses sold this year in Green Trails, and last year at this time we had a total of 62 houses sold. So it's only down a slight little bit since last year. And we did see, though, that the average sale of price per square foot last year was $136.13. So it was a little up for what's actually on the market right now. But we expect that to come back up as Corona goes away and some of those things. And some of the things that have been happening is that some of the properties recently that have been on the market have been a little less updated than some of them last year. So that's also affected the price a little bit. But we expect it to come back up, no problem, within the next few months or so.
So in addition to Green Trails, you are helping people, buyers and sellers all over, I guess, the Katy area. How do you approach, other than Green Trails, what are some of the other areas that you find yourself helping people?
Oh, yes. Well, thanks for asking. So I work also in the Katy area. So Green Trails is in the Katy School District, but it's technically West Houston, right? So I love the Spring Branch, West Houston area. My husband and I, we lived in the Spring Branch area before, and I know that area well. I've also helped I've had a listing and a seller in Cypress, which is really great. And actually, I was looking last night at some of the information about our Houston area, and Cyfair is the hottest of all of the housing markets, and in Southeast Katy, which is where we are, we're number 8. So we're the 8th hottest out of 64. So we're really hot in Katy, and I love selling in this west side area of Houston and Katy and all of that, and Richmond and all of those great areas with the new homes and all that too.
And I always like to ask people in the real estate profession, what is it that you love about real estate? And give us a quick word how you chose real estate as your profession.
Honestly, I love people and I love working with people, and that's my number one favorite thing about real estate. But of course, second to that is the houses. I love houses. I teased with my husband the other day that the way that some people are pet people and they love pets and they want all the pets, I'm the same way with houses. I love houses. I love seeing them. I love understanding how they were originally built, if they've been around a long time, the history of it, or if they're a new build, kind of what the builder was thinking. And I was recently listening to a podcast that was saying how different pandemics have changed the building of homes, and each pandemic changes it. So we're going to probably see with some of these newer built homes some new desk areas being put in, because we've had office spaces in the past in homes. However, we haven't had multiple desk areas. So they're thinking that now this will change homes again. Other pandemics, like when yellow fever happened, that's when we started having tile and easy cleaning in bathrooms, because that was keeping that from spreading. So it's really interesting. I love people and I love homes.
We're talking with Amber Stewart with Keller Williams in Katy, Texas.
It would be my pleasure to assist anybody who might be interested in just seeing what their neighborhood looks like. Similar to the research that I did in Green Trails, I would love to do research for them if they had some questions about their specific neighborhood or putting their home on the market, what it would look like, what the numbers would be. I also love assisting buyers. It gives me almost as much of a thrill to help someone find a home that they love as it does for them to find it. And so it would be my pleasure if there was somebody who might be looking to buy or sell or even lease or invest in property. If they would like to give me a call or text me, I would just be so pleased to assist them.
And your number is?
832-713-6284. And they can call or text me there.
Amber Stewart, Keller Williams Premier, 832-713-6284. And on behalf of Amber and myself, we invite you to come over and see the Turtle Bridge, right, Amber?
Yes. I'd love to show anybody anytime. It's just one of the best parts of Green Trails.
Indeed, and there are really a lot of trails. So when we go out of the house to take a walk or bike ride, we have a tremendous choice here in Green Trails. That's Amber Stewart at 832-713-6284. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you, Bill. It was such a pleasure.
In today's litigious society, it is imperative to have the proper insurance to offset the many risks facing your business, especially if you're a real estate broker. Your errors and omissions and cyber liability insurance can help limit the threat of these risks if you know what to look for. Not sure if your insurance addresses the risks facing your business? Contact Stewart Insurance to be confident your brokerage can withstand these risks. Stewart Insurance, 866-798-2827. StewartInsurance.com. That's StewartInsurance.com, or call 866-798-2827.
And now let's welcome Steve Rosenberg with Mind Management. He is the Investor Education Chief right over there as they deal with property management, and he is super awesome. Mr. Rosenberg, welcome to the show.
Bill, as always, buddy, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
In the world of property management, there are very few people that are as educated as you are and your team. You also educate others about it, and you have been doing so for many years, starting right here in Houston, Texas, and now you are with a company called Mind Management. First of all, Steve, let's tell people about your company.
Sure. So Mind Property Management, they are in 19 investable markets across the country. And last year I sold my company, a local Houston-based company, to them, merged the companies, and they took all the employees on. And they basically are where we would want to be in the future. So, when you look at doing that, you look at companies and growth potential, and they were basically doing maybe 10 years further than we could ever have been with more financial backing, essentially. So it made sense for us to join with them, which we did. And we are, it's been great because we're able to offer people that are maybe local in Houston or not in Houston to be able to purchase in multiple markets. Streamlined system that Mind offers. So they're really, if you think about it, when you think of the property management industry, it's kind of clunky and cumbersome. And just like the taxi cab business was before Uber, I think the property management business could be before Mind. And their goal is to streamline it, to take out the friction in the industry and make it as streamlined as possible, utilizing technology, artificial intelligence, just a lot of things that are not injected into this industry yet, but they see the potential. And obviously we all know investing in real estate is a great asset. It's a great way to build wealth. A lot of people just don't like to deal with the down and dirty side of owning and dealing with the tenants, toilets, and turmoil that go along with owning the rental property. And Mind is trying to do that as easily as possible through the use of technology.
And those are concerns that people have that have one property for rental, and those that are investors that may have more, and sometimes more in several marketplaces. As far as let's think about Houston right now, and I know and tracked with you and worked with you with your previous company and saw the things that you did to educate the marketplace, also to deal with the issues, the challenges, and the rewards in the property management industry. Let's tell people right now there are people that do have rental properties. Maybe they have one or several, but they're handling it themselves. And as you and I know, and we've talked about it many shows, that is asking for trouble, in my opinion. So there's someone out there that's listening that has their own property for rental, or maybe two, and they think everything's okay, and they say, why do I want to pay a property management company? But the property management company, like Mind Management, is doing so many things to offset those potential challenges and pitfalls, as you say.
Yeah, I think what happens a lot of times is when we buy a rental property, we don't really think through the tail end of the actual management of the asset, which in all intents purposes, that is a business. A lot of us spend so much time focusing on the acquisition of the asset, buying the property. We don't really understand how we are going to get the revenue out of that property and the returns month after month, year after year, decade after decade. We all know buying real estate, no one is going to get wealthy owning one piece of real estate. It only happens in multiples, and you must understand that the one vital thing that you don't get more of is hours in the day. And so you have two options. You either figure out how you run the business yourself correctly, because 1 out of 3 landlords are in a lawsuit every year because there's so many governing agencies that are watching a landlord. You could do it yourself, but I think at the end of the day, you need to ask, why is it I'm in real estate? Is it to have a second or third job, or is it to create wealth? Just because I'm busy owning a bunch of rental properties does not ensure that I'm doing it correctly. And it doesn't ensure that I'm not doing something that, am I even being productive? And so because we focus on buying the asset, we don't think about the business running inside to make the asset give the return. And I think that's where, as an investor myself, I know a lot of times that becomes the gray area, but really that's where the fruit is born from owning the rental property. Just buying the property and doing all these great make-readies is not going to get you the return. I know many people that have purchased properties and run them right into the ground because they don't know what they're doing. And so it's important to understand that a management company or creating your own management company, it's a form of leverage, but it's a form of building a team so that you can grow, because you don't buy real estate to make yourself busier. You buy real estate for more freedom. But many times when you purchase multiple pieces of real estate, that's what you lose, is your freedom, because you're running around being reactive to owning this real estate and not even sure if you're doing the right thing or if you're even building wealth. So that's why I think a management company is a great form of leverage for investors to give you that return that you want and need. And the whole reason you bought real estate is that.
Let's say I have one property. What are the services that you offer that help people?
Sure. So when you own the property and you hand it over to Mind, essentially you are now becoming the CEO of that business, where you are, we'll say for lack of a better term, trust but verify, meaning they are the operating system that is running your rental property. So every facet that goes involved is being done, but you are the one that is maybe on the verification of it. So let's say you have to get a tenant leaves and you have to get the make ready done. Well, depending on we have a 3-tiered service, and depending on your property in the area, we can tell you specifically what price point it is, but they're all very, very reasonable. A basic bare bones cost. Then you have the middle one, which may give you some assurances like eviction protection, product damage, other things that if the property is damaged, it's all the things that would scare you and that would scare a landlord if something were to happen. And then it escalates up to the next one where you basically get all the bells and whistles so that you don't have to worry about a thing, and everything is covered with guarantees so that you know what you're paying for. And again, at the end of the day, it depends on what type of property you own. So if you have a property that you say, I've had this property for 15 years. It's never been a problem. I just really don't have the time to deal with it. Well, then maybe you don't need the high level, high touch service. Maybe you just need the bare bones on that one. But maybe the other one you buy, and maybe it is a little bit of a pain in the neck, and you think, maybe I'm gonna have to evict tenants out of this one, or may have problems, or that's a different type of property. So the whole point is you can select the service that fits your needs and make sure that you're getting a true team, at least in my opinion, that can help you grow and not you have to do it. Because at the end of the day, you're not buying the property to do more work. You should be the one that's the CEO of that business, and your job is to make decisions based on information given to you, not being the one slugging it out at Home Depot, waiting in line, trying to get workers, trying to negotiate with contractors. That is, to me, that's not the best use of your time, and it's probably not why you bought a piece of real estate. You bought real estate for the passive income, for the building of wealth, not for, trying to figure out if this skew for the paint scheme matches the other paint in the bathroom. That's probably not what you want to do on a Saturday afternoon. Maybe it is, but statistically it's really not, and that's not why we buy real estate.
As far as finding the tenant to begin with, do you help people with that?
We do. We help people find the tenant. We actually can help them find the property as well. So when they tell us what kind of properties they want, we have intellectual data that we have and proprietary systems that we can actually help them find the property. So it can be from tip to tip. It can be a complete hands-off situation where they find the property, they can go ahead and we put the tenant in with a guarantee that if something should happen, we guarantee the tenant, all these kinds of things that you don't have to worry about, because one of the number one reasons landlords are sued is for not putting the right tenant in and not knowing what the protected classes are, discrimination, fair housing, Fair Credit Reporting Act. These are all laws that are governing, and they're watching and protecting tenants' rights. And unfortunately, the one person who doesn't know those laws and they don't know the rights are the landlord asking the question. Kind of a recipe for disaster if they don't know what they're doing.
So then if the landlord ends up in a lawsuit, I own this property, I end up in a lawsuit, and when I tell the judge, yeah, but I didn't know that I was supposed to do that, that's not going to fly, is it?
It hasn't yet. I don't know of a case where the judge gives you a pass in that, and especially when it becomes a situation that's a federally protected law, especially now because of COVID-19 and all the new laws and all the new regulations that are in place because of that. They are changing almost on a weekly, monthly basis because there's different laws. I'll give you an example. Let's say a maintenance person goes into your property and the maintenance person has COVID. And they give it to the resident. Who's responsible? That's something that you don't want to know. You don't want to have to be asking that question once you're served with papers, basically, that you negligently let someone in your property. And I'm not an attorney and I'm not giving advice, but these are the things you do not want to be putting yourself in that position, because you're trying to fix a property that by Texas property code has to be fixed and repaired a certain amount of time. Did you just put someone at risk without even knowing it?
There are a lot of things like that. I think you leave these kinds of things to the professionals, and that's what your company's doing.
Absolutely. And again, we've got this dialed in pretty nicely. They're taking a lot of the intellectual property that we had at Empire, brought it over to mine, which was very, very successful here in the Houston market, just to make everything better. It's an all-in mentality of investors helping investors, and that's what I like about it.
And we're talking with Steve Rosenberg. He leads the charge of investor education at Mine Property Management. What are some of the other things you think people need to know about what you're doing there in your company?
Well, I think what they need to realize is that, my opinion will say, is that in the next 12 to 18 months, once all of these protection plans and everything going on get removed, there will be more wealth created in the acquisition of real estate in the next 12 to 18 months than probably has been created in the last 10 years, because everything in investor terms is about to go on sale. And what that means to someone wanting to get in, this is the time to sharpen that mental axe and mentally get ready and get educated so that you know what types of properties are the right strategy to help you achieve your goals, and know what those goals are, so that when you're looking at real estate or wanting to get involved in real estate, you don't just buy a piece of property and then say, is this or was this a good deal or not? You know it was a good deal because it's based on your goals, it's based on your strategy, and that's how you know. So I just think it's one of those things that, it's all about an inclusive concept. The real estate industry is not a very large industry, when you look at other types of markets that are out there. But we all know and agree that at the end of the day, it's one of the best strategies for building wealth and passing on, wealth to your family and generational wealth. And, as you know, my son at 14 years old, he bought his first rental property here in Houston. That to me is a great way to do this. And having the team like Mind being able to take care of it. I mean, they manage my rental assets here in Houston. So it just makes sense for me that I don't want to be getting those phone calls. I want them just to let me know what happened, that it was taken care of, and this is the bill. That's fine. That to me is the form of leverage that I want to have.
And Mind is spelled, by the way, MYND. We're talking with Steve Rosenberg. And Stephen, one of the things as we talk to real estate professionals on the show all the time lately, and I can't remember when the market was not hot, even during this virus event, and there's more sales now than there were last year at this time. I don't know the exact statistics, but good properties are not on the market long. They're option pending right away. So I think one of the challenges, too, is finding that right property. They're going swiftly, especially at the lower than the 600 price point.
Absolutely. And that is indicative of what we're seeing across the country. That's not just Houston, that's across the country. It goes in cycles, right? And everything goes in waves. And at some point that may and probably will change. But knowing what is a good deal for you, knowing what the right strategy is, and understanding when you go into purchasing a piece of real estate is that it's got to align with your goals, I think is imperative. Buying to buy just because you see everyone else buying, I don't think is the right way to go. Buying because you're educated and it matches what you want, to me, is the right strategy. And that is the recipe for success.
So many other things come into play, and we used to talk about it all the time, the right mindset. And I think we covered some of that today. Steve, thank you so much for being on the show. Let's tell people how to reach out to the company, Mind Property Management, MYND.co, is it?
That's correct. It's MYND.co, and there they can have a conversation with someone. They can also get a free rental analysis if they want to find out what their property will rent for, or a property in any one of our markets. And as I said, we're all over the nation, and we could probably tell you if it's a market that matches your goals or not. So again, it's another set of eyeballs to make sure that you're making the right decision for you and not the right decision just because you heard it was the right decision.
Not only that, knowing you and some of the other individuals and your associates as far as the right minds that are in the property management business, and you have been so for many years. The minds that are assembled at your company, Mind, are just stellar in this industry because you have knowledge, not just in Houston, the United States, but even around the world, some of the things going on. But that's for another show. Steve, one more time, the website is?
The website is MYND.co. It's mind.co, and there they can get all the wealth of information of everything from coronavirus to what we're doing on a local, state, and national level in all the different markets that we're in.
There you go.
So good indications of what's coming.
Indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Steve Rosenberg. Thanks, Steve. Nice to talk with you again.
Thanks, Bill. You too. Take care.
Real Estate Matters would not be possible without our partner, Stewart Insurance. With a focus in real estate and a special focus on real estate brokers, Stewart Insurance creates insurance plans to address the risks facing our industry today. They invest a significant amount of time helping real estate broker owners offset and manage their risks. Yes, it's the time of the show where John Bramlett is here from Stewart Insurance. John, welcome.
Thank you, Bill. Glad to be with you.
We strive to remind people to be properly insured, and also during this time that we're in, this virus event and crazy 2020, it's interesting how people are adapting to the world and their lives in the profession.
It really is. I've been thinking and reading a lot about that lately, and especially our guests this year that have been so kind with their time and their counsel and their guidance. But it really is amazing to see how they found a way to be successful in these challenging times, and that they're either adapting or they're finding a unique niche that they can lean on. You look at now with virtual open houses and reimagined open houses, and these video tours that people can take where they can control which room you're in and which way you do the tour. The onset of truly online meetings using as if you've been a guest on Real Estate Matters, using your segment that you provide to help market yourself. I just think it's really fascinating the way folks have adapted. And we've seen folks that have been our guests that while they can serve a good part of the Houston market and beyond, they do have some unique niches that they lean on, like Betty Herndon with Realty and Associates. And she talked to us about lake living and specifically living on Lake Livingston, and Nikki DeMary with CNR Realty and, owner financing programs, and Sharon Urie with Sharecom and Sharecom Realty, and her experiences in both Houston and Dallas. Realty Walks, Ray Walker, talking about looking for different ways that they're going to be helping his clients specifically with some new home opportunities and how to evaluate new home opportunities. And then, at Stewart Insurance, we strive to be the most admired insurance resource for real estate. So it's really interesting to see how folks have adapted and then, found some niches that they can lean on.
I'm sure in other professions that it happens, but this makes me think that the real estate professionals, as most of them, especially the real estate agents and brokers, they are independent contractors, thus a more entrepreneurial lean that they may have, that they're perhaps more creative than some professions, but they have really adapted, overcame, found new opportunities. I'm thinking of one now in the interior design world, Talina Goulash, who had already a staging, interior design, and when the pandemic came, she's now disinfecting homes and offices and restaurants and all those things, and they did that at the drop of a hat. They mobilized. Being nimble in business is so important, and we have seen that. If someone were to go to stewart.com/Houston and look at the archive of shows just that we've had this year, you'll see a wide range, a variety of guests, and some of the great ideas that they've brought forth. I think it's very exciting.
It really is. And, as you read about, how companies, individuals are adapting and changing and leading during these trying times, it looks like that they all have some additional characteristics that I'm sure our successful guests have shown as well, that they just innately have, or that, they've been able to learn, things like, how do you look at a situation? Perception, I truly believe, is reality. And, they see these challenges as opportunities to help others and opportunities to grow. It's not just a crisis. And the perception and how you think about things and look at things can truly affect, how you act upon them. They all seem to be able to focus on the resources that they have, that they're very grateful for those resources and those opportunities, and then they become creative with those resources. And I always find that just amazing, that they are present. They're present with their clients. They're present with their coworkers. They're present with their employees. And they're able to do that because they're staying mentally and physically active and doing things to strengthen themselves and their skill sets, both mentally and physically. They're all very hungry. They're all very driven. They have their purpose. They understand, something that kicks them in going. And that hunger and that drive is what allows, successful folks to take action every day and to, just be consistent with the approaches that they take. It's obvious that they're committed to the outcome and they're committed to their plans, but they're all very flexible in their approach. Our president, Tom Carpentier, calls that pivoting, the ability to pivot, that you still maintain your plan and your direction, but you may have to change the route that you're taking. And that idea of being able to pivot is really consistent among, once you're looking at folks that have been successful during this time period. They keep looking for solutions, and they're confident that solution is out there. They're pretty bold in the expectations that they set high expectations, and not only for themselves, but also for their clients and their teams. They're connectors. They find ways to be part of highly functioning teams. And that's more than just in business, but their personal life, their social life, their spiritual life, that they're part of these really highly functional teams that add value, and it, reinforces that interconnectivity. And then they work at it. There's a great quote from Pablo Picasso that I came across the other day that says, inspiration exists, but it has to find you working.
He has done incredible work. In fact, I was at a place, you're thinking about Picasso, a place in Japan called the Hakone Open Air Museum, which I had to take 3-4 modes of transportation just to get there, and I'll never forget it, but there was a Picasso exhibit. This was high on a hill in June, one June day in Japan, Hakone Open Air Museum. It was beautiful. It was like on a plateau, mountain-type scenario with outdoor artwork. I'm getting on a different tangent, but I can't forget that. I love Picasso. Also, when you mentioned Tom Carpentier, president of Stewart Insurance, as far as pivoting, being nimble, staying on plan, but yet being ready to jump on an opportunity, I can't not forget 335 shows, 36 shows ago, when we brought the idea to Tom to do the radio show, he did exactly that. He was on a plan, always has his plan moving, but when we brought the idea to him, it was in short order where he says, that sounds great, let's do it. A man of action and vision.
He is that. We're fortunate to have him as our leader, just as we're fortunate to have all these wonderful leaders that have been our guests on Real Estate Matters.
And it's exciting. When we think about that, John, as far as our guests, we've even addressed things like, and we're saying this so that people can go back to the archives, should they wish, or the YouTube to see, but we've addressed things like performance in our real estate profession. We've had psychologists on the show. We've talked about performance as far as our productivity in our profession, but also tied with keeping our mind right to have the right mindset for performance. This year we've had 2 psychologists on talking about staying in good shape during the pandemic, but just besides the pandemic, staying in good shape, just good practices. So we're trying to provide those things. I can't wait to see who's going to be on in the next coming months.
It's going to be exciting. And while we miss being in our iHeart Radio studios at KPRC 950 AM in Houston, again, we've adapted and our guests have adapted, and we've been doing, most of our shows remotely via the phone, but we're excited about what we've learned and what our guests continue to teach us. And like you, I can't wait to hear what happens on next week's and the week after and the week after.
I'm in touch with Dr. Ted C. Jones talking about the economy. He's coming up. We're getting a date together. So a lot of exciting stuff. Certainly we encourage people to go to stewart.com/Houston. That is where the archives can be found.
Well, if you're ready to be properly insured,
I'm ready.
You're ready? Well, then let's get after it. You can give us a call at 866-798-2827. We can help you with your home insurance, your flood insurance, wind, auto, motorcycle. We can help you with your real estate broker, business E&O, cyber liability, business owner's policy, general liability, workers' compensation. Again, you can reach us at 866-798-2827 or email us stewartinsurance@stewart.com, stewartinsurance@stewart.com.
Once again, we thank everyone for listening to Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. I'm your host, Bill Nampick, together with John Bramlett, Tom Carpentier, all the greats at Stewart Title and Stewart Insurance. We thank you. And John, thanks for being on the show.
Bill, I always enjoy your company.
We invite you again, stewart.com/Houston. For insurance needs, simply stewartinsurance.com. And until next week, we have a few surprises for you. Stay tuned to Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title right here on AM 950 KPRC and iHeart, the iHeart Media app. And until next week, thanks for listening.